All right, let's dive into something a little different today. Getting ready for a dangerous goods driver interview.
Yeah, these interviews, they're not your average driving gig. We're talking about hauling some serious, potentially hazardous materials, lots of responsibility.
Definitely a lot more to it. And the demand for these drivers, it's huge right now. So you got to be ready to stand out.
Absolutely. And that's where, resources like RoleCatcher, they come in really handy. They've got these great career guides.
And those AI tools they offer, those are pretty impressive from what I've seen.
For sure. And those guides, they really highlight just how much more this job is than just, driving. You're basically a safety expert. You got to be a whiz with all the regulations. And handling pressure on the road is a must.
It's not just getting from point A to point B, that's for sure. So let's jump into some of those tough interview questions, the ones that really get you thinking, like that classic one. Can you tell us about your previous experience as a dangerous goods driver?
Yeah, that's a common one. It's your chance to kind of set the stage, right? Don't just rattle off every job you've ever had. You want to think about the specific things they're looking for in the job description, the specific requirements. Highlight those experiences that really match up.
Right, tailor it. So if they're talking about tankers in the description, you emphasize your experience with, hauling liquids.
Exactly. It's like making a highlight reel of your skills, but you're focusing on what's relevant to this job.
I like that. So you're hitting those keywords, showing them you've done your homework.
Exactly. And they might even follow up with something like, what were some of the challenges you faced in your previous role? And how did you overcome them?
Yeah, that one. It's like the classic, tell me about a time you messed up, but then saved the day kind of question.
You got it. It's all about showcasing those problem-solving skills, showing you're committed to safety. Choose an example that really demonstrates your ability to, stay calm under pressure, assess the situation, and then make a safe decision.
So maybe you had a tire blowout, right? But you were hauling flammable liquids. That's a high pressure situation.
Perfect example. Explain what happened, but then walk them through how you secured the scene, contacted your dispatcher, followed all those emergency procedures.
You're showing them you can handle the tough stuff. And you know what? This is where RoleCatcher's AI, it can be a real game changer.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
You can practice answering those tricky questions and get feedback on how you're coming across.
Like having a personal interview coach, right?
Right. The AI, it analyzes your responses. It
Exactly.
can pick up on those areas where you might be, rambling a bit or sounding unsure of yourself, things you might not even notice.
For sure. It's super helpful for fine-tuning your delivery.
Okay, so next up is a question that really digs into your knowledge base. Something like, how do you ensure compliance with rules and regulations when transporting dangerous goods?
Oh, yeah, this one. It's all about demonstrating your deep understanding of those DOT regulations. Think about those pre-trip inspections. Proper documentation and, communication procedures are key.
So it's not just knowing the rules, but having a system, a process for following them.
Absolutely. And those certifications you have, huge asset here. Mention your hazmat endorsements, any specialized training you've done, even your commitment to staying up to date with all the latest changes in the industry.
Which, speaking of staying up to date, RoleCatcher's career guides, they really
Yeah.
emphasize that, the importance of continuous learning in this field. Things are always changing, right?
Always evolving, yeah. New regs, new tech, new best practices. Interviewers want to see you're in it for the long haul, committed to growing as a professional.
Absolutely. Okay, back to those questions. What about this one? Can you give an example of a time you had to correct a safety violation? How do you approach that one?
Yeah. This one's your chance to shine, to show you're proactive about safety. Maybe you notice a coworker loading cargo incorrectly or, skipping a pre-trip inspection. Talk about how you handled it, calmly address the situation, explain the risks.
Right, and made sure that violation was corrected.
Exactly. It's about showing you not only know the rules, you're willing to enforce them, even if it's a little uncomfortable.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's tackle one that gets at your ability to handle those stressful situations. How do you handle stressful situations while on the road?
Oh, yeah.
We all get stressed behind the wheel, but hauling hazardous materials, the stakes are even higher.
Definitely. They want to know you can think clearly in those high-pressure situations, that you can make safe decisions. Think of a time when you were really put to the test. Maybe a sudden detour because of an accident, a crazy weather change, or even a mechanical issue. Explain how you assessed everything, how you prioritize safety, what steps you took to resolve it.
And, don't be afraid to show a little personality here, a little bit of who you are. Did you have to, like, MacGyver a temporary fix on the side of the road? Did you talk down a panic driver?
I love that. Yeah, those little details, they make you memorable.
Hmm.
Authenticity and a bit of storytelling, that's what connects with people. Okay, now here's a question that goes deep into the core of the job. Can you explain your knowledge of DOT regulations regarding the transportation of dangerous goods?
This one's the big leagues. They want to see that you've got a deep, thorough understanding of the rules of the game.
And you know what can be really helpful here? RoleCatcher's AI.
Ah, yeah, I was just thinking that.
They have this massive library of practice interview questions, like over 120,000,
Wow.
including specific questions about, you guessed it, DOT regulations.
So you can really drill down and get super specific with your prep.
Exactly. Practice those answers, get targeted feedback, make sure you're hitting all the key points.
Smart. Okay, back to that actual interview question, though.
Right, so when you're answering this one, think about those different classes of hazardous materials, the placard system, packaging requirements, emergency procedures. It's not just knowing the facts, it's showing you can apply that knowledge in real-world scenarios.
It's one thing to memorize the rule book. It's another to understand how it works on the road.
Exactly. They might even throw you a curveball. Like imagine they say, you're stopped for an inspection, how do you explain your cargo? And it's placarding to the inspector.
Ooh, that's a good one.
It's all about demonstrating that confidence, that you're articulate and can break down complex info clearly.
So you're not just saying what the rules are, you're explaining why they matter. You're showing that deeper understanding.
You got it. They're looking for someone who's not just a driver, but a safety advocate, a regulation expert, a true professional.
Right. Someone who takes his job seriously.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's dig into a question that really gets to the heart of this job. Something like, how do you prioritize safety when transporting dangerous goods?
This one goes beyond just knowing the specific regulations. It's about your whole approach, your mindset.
Right. You want to show them you've got that safety-first mentality ingrained. And RoleCatcher's career guides, they really hit on this point,
Yeah, they do.
talking about how it impacts, well, pretty much everything you do, from those pre-trip inspections to how you plan your route, even how you interact with, other drivers.
It's not just a checklist item, but it's like woven into the fabric of the job.
Exactly. So when you answer this question, make sure you're showcasing that mindset. Talk about how you meticulously check your equipment, stay aware of your surroundings, and never cut corners, even if you're up against a tight deadline.
And you could even talk about how you advocate for safety with other people. Like, say you see a work crew that's not properly marked or something. You take the time to make sure everyone's following the rules.
Oh, for sure. That kind of proactive approach, that's what really impresses interviewers. They want to see you're not just following the rules, you're promoting a safety culture everywhere you go.
Yeah. Leading by example. Okay, so they might throw in a scenario, right?
Yeah.
Just to see how you'd react. Something like, what would you do if you noticed a leak in your cargo?
Yeah, that's a good one. Now, your knowledge of emergency procedures, that comes into play big time. You need to lay out the steps you'd take, and you want to do it calmly, clearly. Secure the area, check your emergency guide for that specific material, contact your dispatcher and emergency services. It's about showing you can handle a crisis, but handle it safely and effectively.
And it's not just what you say you do, it's how you say it. This is where that practice with RoleCatcher's AI can be really helpful.
Oh, I totally agree.
Their AI, it analyzes not just the content of your answer, but your tone, your delivery. It picks up on things you might not even notice, like hesitation, or if you sound unsure of yourself.
It's like having that performance coach in your pocket, helping you project that confidence, that expertise.
Right. Okay, so let's shift gears a bit. Think about a question like, how do you handle unexpected situations while transporting dangerous goods?
Right, because things don't always go as planned, do they?
Especially on the road.
Exactly. This question, it's about proving you can stay calm, think clearly, and make safe decisions when you're thrown a curveball. Could be a sudden road closure, a mechanical problem, even running into another driver who's not following safety protocols.
Speaking of other drivers, that's a good point. What if they ask, what would you do if you saw another driver violating safety protocols?
Ooh, that's a tricky one. Because it could involve, confronting a colleague, but remember, safety is your priority, even if it means speaking up.
You could mention how you'd approach the driver, respectfully, of course, point out the violation, explain the risks involved.
And if they're not receptive or they keep doing it, You document the incident and report it to your dispatcher, your supervisor. It's not about getting anyone in trouble. It's about making sure everyone stays safe out there.
Makes sense. Okay, let's get into I guess you could say the nitty-gritty of the job. A question like, how do you ensure the proper loading and unloading of dangerous goods?
This one might seem pretty straightforward, but it's crucial. Attention to detail, that's key here.
Right, you want to talk about how you inspect everything, the vehicle, the loading area, before and after loading.
Yeah, and emphasize how important it is to understand weight distribution, securement techniques, using the right equipment for the specific cargo.
Oh, and communication, big one. You need to be able to communicate clearly with the loading dock personnel, make sure everyone's on the same page, following those safety procedures.
And if something seems off, you don't hesitate to speak up, ask questions, clarify things. Better safe than sorry, right?
Absolutely. Okay, let's talk about something that might seem a little dry, but it's super important. How do you maintain accurate, up-to-date records when transporting dangerous goods?
Oh, this is where you show off those organizational skills, that attention to detail we were talking about. Interviewers want to know you understand that proper documentation, it's crucial for accountability, for safety.
Right. You could talk about your system, how you keep everything organized, shipping papers, inspection reports, those maintenance logs, your hours of service records.
Yeah, and if you've got experience with those electronic logging devices, the ELDs, or any fleet management software, definitely mention that. Shows you're comfortable with technology, you understand its role in keeping those records accurate.
And speaking of technology, RoleCatcher's AI tools, those can be a real lifesaver when it comes to, your resume, your cover letter, making sure you're highlighting those skills.
For sure. Their AI, it can analyze job descriptions and suggest keywords, specific phrases to use so your application really stands out.
It's like having your own personal resume writer.
Right.
Okay, let's tackle another question that gets into emergency preparedness.
Yeah.
Can you explain your knowledge of emergency response procedures when transporting dangerous goods?
Right. This is where you prove you're not just a driver, you're a first responder if something goes wrong.
Right, you got to be ready for anything.
Exactly. Show them you're familiar with the different types of emergencies, spills, leaks, fires, accidents, those containment procedures, evacuation protocols, how to contact emergency services.
You can even walk them through a specific scenario, like what would you do if your truck was in a collision, something like that.
Great idea. Yeah, explain how you'd secure the scene, assess the situation, protect yourself and anyone else involved, provide clear information to the responders.
And this is a good time to mention any first aid or CPR certifications you have too. Shows you're really committed to safety and preparedness.
Absolutely. Now, they might try to catch you off guard, right? Throw a curveball, like, what's the most challenging situation you've ever faced on the road while hauling dangerous goods?
Ah, that's a tough one.
Yeah, this is where those real-world experiences come in handy. Think about a time when you had to think fast, make tough decisions under pressure.
Like maybe you had a mechanical issue on a mountain road, hauling a full tanker. Or a sudden storm rolls in and you're worried about your cargo.
Exactly. Whatever your story is, focus on the actions you took, the thinking behind them, how you kept safety the top priority.
And don't be afraid to talk about the lessons you learned. Shows self-awareness that you're always looking to improve.
Right, always learning. Speaking of improvement, let's circle back to those RoleCatcher AI tools. Their platform, it offers a lot more than just interview prep, right?
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
Career guides, skill assessments, they even have job matching features, helps you find that perfect role based on your experience, your qualifications.
A whole package, basically, supporting you through the entire job search process.
Exactly. A one-stop shop for job seekers. We've talked about a lot of potential questions, but let's throw in a couple more challenging scenarios just to, really get you thinking.
Okay, I like it. Keep them coming.
All right, so imagine they ask you, what would you do if you were hit with a sudden weather change, like a blizzard or a massive thunderstorm, while you're hauling hazardous material?
Oh yeah, that's a tough one. Talk about pressure.
Definitely puts your quick thinking and knowledge of those safety protocols to the test.
For sure.
Now, there's no single right answer here. It depends, what kind of cargo you're hauling, your route, how bad the weather is, what resources you've got available. But the key is to show them you can assess the risk, make a smart decision, and always, always prioritize safety. Yours and everyone else's.
So you might talk about checking those weather reports before you even hit the road, right? And then monitoring conditions closely while you're driving.
Exactly. And if you do run into a major weather event, you explain how you'd figure out, is it safer to pull over and wait it out or try to get to a more secure spot? Always keeping in mind, what you're hauling and the risks involved.
Right, because those factors change everything. And communication is key here too, right?
Oh, absolutely. You'd stay in touch with your dispatcher, let them know what's going on, follow their guidance.
Okay, that makes sense. Um, what about a scenario that's like more of an ethical dilemma? Like, what would you do if you were asked to transport a load that you suspected was improperly labeled or, the paperwork wasn't right?
Oh, yeah. That's a tough one. You don't want to disobey your employer, but you've also got to do what's right, what's safe.
Right, it's a balancing act.
It is.
Yeah.
And in this situation, your commitment to compliance, to safety, that has to come first. You could explain how you'd bring up your concerns with your supervisor or dispatcher, politely but firmly. Explain the potential risks, why it's so important to have everything accurate.
And you could mention like the specific DOT regulations and company policies, right?
To back up your position.
Exactly. Shows you know your stuff. And if they don't address it, if you're still not comfortable, you might say you'd escalate it higher up in the company. But always emphasizing that you're doing it because you're committed to safety, to following the rules. It really shows integrity. And that's it's a big deal in this job. Okay, so what about those behavioral questions, the ones that everyone seems to ask?
Ah, yes.
Those ones.
Like, tell me about a time you had to make a tough decision under pressure. Or describe a time you had to deal with a conflict with a coworker.
Right. Those are all about getting a sense of your soft skills, how you solve problems, how you communicate, how you handle yourself when things get stressful.
They want to see what you're really made of.
Exactly. So choose examples that are relevant to the job, ones that highlight your strengths. Maybe a time you had to make a split-second decision on the road, or you had to work things out with a colleague you didn't see eye to eye with.
Or even a difficult customer, maybe.
Yeah, good one. When you tell your story, focus on what you did, the thought process behind it, and what happened as a result.
And it's okay to mention challenges you faced or even mistakes you made. Oh, definitely. Shows you're self-aware, that you learn from your experiences. Okay, so before we wrap things up here, I just want to emphasize how valuable RoleCatcher's AI tools can be for anyone getting ready for these interviews. Not only do they have that huge library of practice questions, but they give you feedback too. Personalized feedback on how you're answering.
Which is honestly invaluable. Helps you polish those answers, really nail the delivery.
It's like having a coach in your corner, helping you identify areas where you can improve, boost that confidence. So, to recap, what are the key takeaways for anyone prepping for a dangerous goods driver interview?
Well, first things first, know your stuff, cold.
Yeah, brush up on those DOT regulations, practice those emergency procedures. Be ready to explain it all clearly, confidently.
Show them you've got that safety-first mindset.
Right.
That it's not just something you say, it's part of who you are as a driver.
Exactly. And be ready to talk about your soft skills, too. Those behavioral questions, they're going to come up.
Have those stories ready to go, the ones that show you can solve problems, communicate effectively, handle pressure like a pro.
And don't forget about technology. RoleCatcher's AI tools, those can be a real game changer. They can help you stand out, nail those interviews.
So bottom line, preparation is key. Put in the time, hone your knowledge, refine your skills, practice those answers. You'll be well on your way to landing that job.
Absolutely. And remember, drive safe out there.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Best of luck in your job search, everyone.